Alabama goes to Death Valley to take on the LSU Tigers at night in what the media will undoubtedly bill as the game of the century. This is the 13th straight season these two teams have met, both as ranked opponents. And this year, the teams meet ranked as number 1 and number 4 respectively. LSU has only one loss this season, and if LSU can pull off an upset victory over Alabama, it will instantly catapult LSU to the number 1 spot in the SEC and playoff picture. However, this is no easy task for Coach Orgeron and the LSU Tigers. There's no question, this is going to be Alabama's most difficult test of the regular season. So with that in mind, how exactly do these two teams actually match up? Let's start with the offensive matchups. This year, LSU has an Ohio State grad transfer and quarterback Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has thrown for 1,544 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions with a 53.8% completion ratio this year. With LSU's quarterback, you can basically flip a coin to determine whether or not he will complete a pass. Burrow's favorite target and LSU's best receiver is Justin Jefferson, who has 30 receptions for 471 yards and 2 touchdowns. After Jefferson, LSU's receiver production drops off significantly, with wide receivers Sullivan, Anderson, Dillon, Chase, Marshall, and tight end Foster Moreau combining for a less than impressive 875 total yards this season. LSU, frankly, is a one-dimensional team this year, as they've had to rely heavily on the rushing attack, with their 2 running backs, Brossette and Hilaire, rushing for 1,218 yards and 15 touchdowns, providing 23 points of their 30 points per game average. That's right, LSU's passing attack is only responsible for 25% of their scoring. For comparison, Alabama's offense is led by Heisman frontrunner Tua Tagovailoa. Tua has thrown for 2,066 yards, 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, with a 70.4% completion ratio this year. Tua is undoubtedly the key to Alabama possessing a truly historic offense, the likes of which this generation has never seen before. Tua's favorite target and Alabama's best receiver is Jerry Juedy, who has 31 receptions for 777 yards and 10 touchdowns. However, unlike LSU, after Juedy, Bama's receiver production just continues to flourish, with wide receivers Waddle, Ruggs, Devonta Smith, and tight end Irv Smith Jr. combining for a staggering 1,694 total yards this season. Alabama definitely is a pick-your-poison offense, with the run game providing a highly balanced 40% of their 51 touchdowns this year. This Alabama rushing attack is a 4-headed monster between Najee Harris, Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs, and Brian Robinson, who average over 6 yards per carry for 1,432 yards and 18 touchdowns this season. Finally, so far this season, Alabama's offense has averaged a record-breaking 54.1 points per game. It's not an insult to declare Alabama the unanimous winner in this offensive comparison. In fact, even with Alabama's passing game generating, on average, 60% of the offensive production, Alabama's rushing game still exceeds LSU's in both total rushing yards and average yards per carry. That, my friends, is truly impressive. That said, what will truly matter is how well each respective team's defense can slow down or stop the opposing team's offense. Defensively, LSU, unsurprisingly, matches up reasonably well with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Both teams run a 3-4 defensive scheme, and the three big boys up front for LSU have combined this year for 61 total tackles, 7.5 of them for a loss, and 2.5 sacks. Meanwhile, Alabama's defensive line has combined for 87 total tackles, with an astounding 21 of them being for a loss and 10 sacks. LSU's best defensive line player to watch in this game is number 90, defensive end Rashard Lawrence. Conversely, on the Alabama D-line, you definitely won't be disappointed in breakout nose guard Quinnen Williams. Further, this comparison comfortably awards Alabama with the better defensive line. Well, we now know which team has the better defensive line, but which team has the better offensive line to ward these guys off? I know the last thing most people want to hear is an in-depth breakdown of offensive lines, so I'll spare you guys the details and award Alabama with the far superior offensive line. Alabama has an offensive line that is stocked full of NFL talent, led by left tackle Jonah Williams and center Ross Pierschbaker. When you do the quick math, with LSU having a weaker defensive line and weaker offensive line, it's safe to assume Alabama will win the battle in the trenches. But the matchups that will truly make the difference in this game are LSU's defensive backs versus Tua Tagovailoa and the Alabama receiving corps, as well as Alabama's defensive front seven slowing down LSU's prolific rushing attack while also attempting to pressure an inaccurate Joe Burrow. LSU has three very good defensive backs in cornerback Greedy Williams and safeties Grant Delpit and John Battle. Unfortunately, Alabama has at least 4 receivers this year that will play on Sundays. This means any opposing team needs at least 4 NFL caliber cornerbacks. While LSU has more talent in their secondary than most, it's still not enough to cover all of Alabama's receivers, especially with a dual threat quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, who can thread the needle better than any quarterback we've seen in a long time. So what about Alabama's defense slowing down LSU's run game? Well, we've already established that Alabama's defensive line is one of the best in the country. However, let's not forget that Nick Saban has the best recruits in all of college football. This means Alabama's middle linebackers in Dylan Moses and Mack Wilson, combined with outside linebackers Anthony Jennings and Christian Miller, will in unison keep LSU's halfbacks frustrated all game long. Also, should LSU's offensive coordinator Steve Ensminger shift LSU's primary attack to Joe Burrow in the passing game, Alabama's all-star safeties Deionte, Thompson, and Xavier McKinney, working with cornerbacks Patrick Surtain, Saivion Smith, and Shyheim Carter, will more often than not keep LSU's 50% passer on complete lockdown. This Alabama vs. LSU matchup will be hyped as if it were truly 2 equal teams squaring off. However, the truth is, LSU's only significant advantage is playing at home, at night, in Death Valley. Furthermore, LSU's best defensive player, middle linebacker Devin White, will miss the entire first half due to an unfortunate penalty in his last game. With his absence, this only gives Alabama and their quick strike offense a better opportunity to do what they've done all year, put up points early and lots of them. Now, with all of that said, Alabama can lose this game. If Alabama comes out flat-footed, lacks focus, isn't disciplined and turns the ball over, it's the recipe LSU needs to actually bring home the victory. However, Nick Saban has a reputation of demolishing opponents for which he has extra time to prepare. As such, I expect this Alabama football team to be ready and motivated. So don't expect this Alabama LSU matchup to resemble those of the past. Instead, Alabama will dominate this top 5 opponent and put the game away early. My final score? Nick Saban keeps his foot on the gas and Alabama wins handily 45-21. Of course, this is but my opinion of this clash of the Titans between Alabama and LSU. What are your thoughts and score predictions for this early November matchup between Alabama and LSU? Guys, as always, thanks for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, take care and roll Tide.